Well, coming up now, it's the W1 women's individual bronze medal here on the 50-metre range, and that view gives you a good idea of what the archers are looking at down at the end of this 50-metre range. So we've got a brilliant lineup for the bronze medal match. It's an all-Chinese affair. Liu Jing, the 36-year-old, goes up against Chen Minyi, both of China. Liu lost out to Krutova in the semi-finals. Chen to Kim of Korea in a really tight semi-final contest.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the athletes to the field of play for W1 Women Open Bronze Medal Match.
So it's time for bronze here in Den Bosch. Let's welcome out Liu Jing and Chen Minyi, both from China.
It was a quick turnaround from Liu Jing as well. So we just saw her in that gold medal match in the mixed team competition, collect the medal, collect the stroke waffles, straight back off, pick up the bow, out again.
No time to eat those biscuits. Interestingly, these two had some very, very tight semi-finals. Liu first came through Victoria Livingston of Great Britain, 129 to 120 in the quarter-finals, before an all-square 130-130 semi-final against Krutova. Here she is, the 36-year-old. And that semi-final against Krutova went to a shoot-off, which she won 10-9. Chen Minyi came through Victoria Rumark of Great Britain, 134 to a 108, so a commanding performance in that quarter-final, but then lost out just by a single point, 130 to 129 against Kim Oh-geum of Korea, the 2016 mixed team Paralympic silver medalist. So after two really tight semi-finals, Chris, what can we expect here?
Well, I'd imagine another tight match. Hopefully this bronze medal match will go the distance. This pair from China have been shooting at a very similar level throughout the tournament. But Liu Jing has had that opportunity to go and shoot in the finals field already. I'm interested to know whether that will play into her favour.
Well, Chen Minyi will get us underway.
8.
So you'll notice the time is ticking down from 30 seconds rather than the normal 20 seconds that we have on the Hyundai Archery World Cup circuit and at the World Archery Championships next week. That's because the para athletes, they get an additional 10 seconds in case they need it, in case they don't have the same mobility as some of the able-bodied athletes, and they just need that little extra time to load their arrows, because the timing isn't about penalising athletes at all. It's just to keep the flow of the competition.
And as you can see, the archers alternate in the individual tournament.
And that's why they get the extra 10 seconds in the individual and not so much in the team or the mixed team, because it's really fast-paced.
Well, just like that, the first end is over, and well, you were wondering whether Liu would have an advantage of having shot on the finals range already in this session, but it turns out it's Chen Minyi who's got the better start, leading by 2 points after the first end.
And just a reminder, even though these archers are shooting compound bows, they don't have the same equipment rules as the compound open athletes. These compound bows are limited to 45 pounds only. Compound open athletes have up to 60 pounds, and these W1 athletes don't use peep sights or scopes.
For those of us perhaps not so au fait, what does that poundage actually mean? What does it actually? What's the result of having a higher poundage for the opener athletes?
So, a compound bow doesn't draw in the same way that you might expect a standard bow, a wooden bow, a recurve bow to do. The cam system and the pulleys actually make the initial draw quite difficult, and then it lets off to a less weight when you get back to the holding. So, for example, if that peak weight at the start is 45 pounds, you might only be feeling for 15 pounds when you get back to the face. Of course, the higher poundage, the more force will go into the arrow, the quicker it will fly, and inherently the more accurate in the wind, because it's not spending as long affected by the conditions in flight.
Well, we get underway for the second end, and trailing is Liu, who gets us underway with a 9. So essentially, the lighter poundage means it's easier to draw the arrow, but less accurate at the target end, potentially.
It's easier to draw the arrow, and the arrow will fly a little bit slower than the compound archers we'll see later on in this tournament.
So clearly an advantage in one respect, but perhaps a disadvantage in terms of accuracy. It's a great first couple of arrows from Liu in this second end.
9.
And actually the difference in poundage isn't what makes the difference in accuracy in this setup. It's the fact that these W1 archers won't be using a magnifying lens in their sight, or a peep sight in the string. So there's much less fixtures to help them in aiming.
Yeah, less aiming aids, yeah.
9.
Well, a good recovery from Liu, a 28, subject to a markup on that final arrow to a 29. And that is some fine shooting.
Je ziet het voor de wissels. De wissel moest Chen voor met 2 punten. Nu zet Liu voor met 3 punten. Dus de wissel is heel erg. We zijn na die ronde zijn we over de helft. Dan zullen we iets meer zien. Als Liu voorsprong uitgaat, dan...
Well, confirmation that 9 remained a 9, but it does mean the lead has changed hands, and Liu Jing there is in the lead. There are 5 ends, of course, in individual archery, so not quite the halfway stage yet.
Yeah, 15 hours in total. Highest score out of 15 hours wins the match. 15 tens is the maximum you can do for 150 points.
Well, Chen Minyi, now trailing just by the 1 point, will lead us out for the third end, and that's a good first arrow. Good grouping there from Chen, who's got a fairly unique grip on her bow.
And I don't think it's anything too outrageous. I think it's just some kind of bandage that she's using as a sling to catch the bow as it falls. It's unusual, but nothing more.
Well, a good quality third end from both athletes, but Liu edging out another point into the lead. 2 more ends to go, and Liu Jing of China leads her teammate Chen Minyi 81 to 79. Chris mentioned that it was unusual, this sort of sling apparatus that Chen's got, because we haven't seen any of the other archers using it. But of course, all these the pieces of equipment that the athletes have are all subject to regulations.
Yeah, and one of the critical ones is there can only be one point of contact with the bow. So her hand is the only point of contact in the grip. And with para-athletes, para-archers, it can be a little bit challenging because they're seated and the bow is much closer to their body. They have to be very careful that their stabilization doesn't brace against any other part of their chair or their legs, because that's not permitted. That's not permitted. These para-archers, like able-bodied archers, still must only have that single point of contact.
Well, the arrows have been recovered from the previous end, and we start the fourth end here in this bronze medal match. Chen Minyi to get us underway. That's her first arrow to drift that far off to the left.
8. 10. 8.
Perhaps a little correction there.
Chen Minyi's shot really is very, very fast for a combat athlete. She's up and away before we've cut to her with the cameras.
10. Good last arrow.
And the last arrow from Liu Jing, when there was an opportunity for Chen to get back into the match, meant that Liu's actually extended the lead by another point in the fourth end.
Yeah, she had an 8 to the left, an 8 to the right, and then a 10 down the middle. When she shoots, her front and her back hand stay very still, very stationary. They don't kind of move that much, and that's probably to do with her mobility. And that will likely mean that she has to be very careful about the torque she puts into the bow. A little movement on that moment of release to the left or right will send the arrows to the left and right on the target. She got it all right with that last shot into the middle.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier on, we're talking about millimetres on the shooting line that affect the arrow, or even fractions of a millimetre on the shooting line that affect the arrow by centimetres at the other end.
Yeah, I mean, those 8s in the target, the difference in position at the point of execution on the archer's end will be about a millimetre.
And these coming from athletes with limited mobility, so all the more impressive. So the fifth and final end of the bronze medal match. Chen Minyi, trailing by 3, needs to put the pressure on early. Well, this last arrow from Chen Minyi needs to be very good, but it's another 8 and a 5. It's all that's required for Liu Jing of China to take the bronze from her teammate. And she finishes with a 10. Brilliant shooting from Liu Jing. She's beaten her teammate Chen Minyi 133 to 127, and she's taken the bronze medal here at the 2019 World Archery Para Championships in the women's W1 individual.
Yeah, well-deserved medal for Liu Jing, her second medal of today and these championships since the Den Bosch.
Well, there is confirmation that Liu Jing of China is the bronze medalist at the 2019 World Championships here in the Netherlands.